Pleasure to give you the tour today. What we're looking at now is 20 acres of our Arabica coffee trees, and when it comes to the highest quality, Arabica is definitely the way to go. These trees are capable of growing 45 to 50 feet high, so give or take the same height as the monkey pod tree that we're standing next to here to my left. So we want to make sure that we prune them, because if we don't, they become so high and brittle that they just kind of snap themselves. So we prune them to an average of about 7 feet high, and where we can comfortably reach over and pull down the branches. They do have some flexibility to them, and pluck off the ripened red cherries. So these trees, if they're well taken care of, will live 100+ years and still continue to produce. So in some cases, they could very well outlive us. And our elevation right now is 1400, which is very ideal for the health of the trees. At this elevation, they get plenty of sunlight, aeration, watering, shade. So for the most part, the trees are self-sustaining. Harvest season begins in July, last month, and then goes all the way through January. So typically it's 6 months on season and 6 months off season, and they produce once a year. So we hire the hand pickers, which we already began to do, and they go up and down the plantation picking all the ripened red cherries. And then they take them down to the wet mill, which is located at a distance down the plantation on the right hand side, a little too far for us to walk to at the moment. And at the wet mill, they go through fermentation. We separate them from the red skins, and then they go through a drying process. At that stage, after the coffee is dried, it's known as parchment, which we will take a look at in just a moment. What we do with the red skins is we store them in a bin, and when it gets filled up enough, we use it as compost and fertilizer. So when it comes to coffee, we recycle everything. And really what makes us stand out from all the other plantations is that Dr. Joe, he comes from a family background of wine growers. So he adopted the idea to grow coffee like wine along a trellis. Not only did he adopt the idea, but he also patented the idea. So we're the only plantation that utilize it. And what we're gonna do now is we're gonna step this direction over here to my left, and then I'm gonna give you a closer look at the trellis system and explain the benefits. This tree here is a part of the trellis system, and then this tree here to my right is not, so that we can give you an example and explain the benefits. So the plantation started in 1995, and it wasn't until 1997 that we started to produce. So it takes 2 years for the trees to mature. And as they mature, they get tied into these wiring systems, also known as a trellis. And you can see it has different sections. So as a tree grows, you know, we continue to tie in the branches. And what the trellis system does is it'll cause the tree to sprout sideways instead of just growing upwards. And that can give us potentially 30 to 35% more crop. Also, it gives the trees a stronger root support system. So they're not flimsy like this tree here to my right, that's more susceptible to damage if we have strong winds and strong rains. So these trees here that are part of the trellis system are a lot more firm. So also what the trellis system does is that with these bigger gaps, you get better and even aeration, sunlight, watering, and shade, which will reduce the acidity in the coffee. So less bitterness and sweeter and smoother taste. And I'm sure that we could all appreciate that. You'll also notice as fertilizer, we recycle the grounds from the coffee. So what the grounds do for fertilizer is they retain a lot of moisture, so it's very good for fertilizer. Not just on coffee trees, but also for fruits and vegetables. I highly recommend it. All right, and you can see that you know, some of them are green, some of them are red, so the pickers, they have to go up and down the plantation picking them as they ripen. At one point, all these potential red cherries were flowers. The way that these trees begin to blossom is they will produce a flower that's about the size of a quarter, part of the gardenia family, and they smell like jasmine. So it's pretty neat to see throughout the plantation all the flowers that begin to blossom. And they will of course attract a lot more bees too for pollination, so that's definitely a plus. Alright, so what we're going to do now is we're going to step to the second process of our coffee, which is also known as a dry mill. This is the second process to our coffee. And here in the dry mill is where we take the parchment, which is what the coffee beans look like, or the coffee seeds, after they're processed at the wet mill. And what it is, it's another layer of skin that gets exposed as the coffee seed gets dried. And it looks a lot like peanut skin. I'm going to go ahead and take this one off and show you an example of it. So there it is there. It looks like peanut skin. And underneath is the green bean. So what we do is we get the parchment from the wet mill and we run it through the dry mill, which is this machine here behind me, and then the dry mill separates the skins from the seeds. We have a piping system here on the left that also has a grinder up on top that's a little circular. And you could actually see some of the skins attached on the right hand side of that grinder. The skins become so fine, so sometimes you could also see a lot of the skins laying on the ground when we process coffee. For the most part, the skins will go out through a pipe in the rear, and then they will get stored in another bin. When it gets filled up enough, we'll also use these skins as fertilizer back into the plantation. So once it's separated from the skins, then the seeds are dropped into this machine on the right that has 6 different layers of mesh. And all these layers of mesh are different sizes, so when the machine rapidly vibrates, it separates the beans by size. So we have extra fancy, peaberry, number 1, prime, and mother beans. And all these can come from a single tree. So once we sort it by size, then we sort it by density. And this machine over here to my right is our density machine. It's got a special material on the top, along with air coming out from the bottom, and the machine also rapidly vibrating. It sends the heavier beans floating to the top and the lighter beans floating to the bottom. So size and density is how we determine our quality. So when we're dealing with the largest and the heaviest of our beans, which is our premium coffee, that would be the extra fancy and fancy combined. And that makes the Trellis Reserve. Now the Trellis Reserve is the coffee that competed internationally and got the Blue Ribbon Award for first place. Also, the Trellis Reserve was served at the White House before, so thank you taxpayers, including myself of course. And then we have the second best, which is a Trellis Signature with the number 1 and the prime beans combined. And the Signature is actually the coffee that you get to sample during the tours in the gift shop in medium roast and dark roast, so you can compare the two. And then we have Peaberry. Now Peaberry kind of stands out in its own category. Peaberry is a lot smaller and a lot more rounded, so it's very distinguished from all the other coffee seeds or beans, whatever your preference is. And here's an example of Peaberry. So smaller and more rounded, hence the name Peaberry, because they look like peas. So it's a rare process that occurs, and we only get small quantities during harvest season. So what happens is in a cherry you typically have 2 seeds, but with the peaberry you only have 1 because one of them dies. So the surviving seed gets twice as much of the nutrients, oils, and caffeine, which causes the peaberry to be the smoothest tasting from all the seeds. So if you want the smoothest taste, peaberry is recommended. It's also considered the tea of coffee. Alright. So after we're done sorting it out here in the dry mill, we store our seeds in burlap sacks, and then we come through these double doors here, which is where our storage is located. And this is where we place all our burlap sacks. A lot of the dust from the skin is located on these windows, so it's a little harder to see. There we go. So 2 things that you'll notice about our storage area is there's a dehumidifier hanging up on the ceiling, and we also seal the doors in order to control the humidity. The lower the humidity, the better when it comes to storage, because humidity can produce a mold in the coffee that can switch up the taste, reduce the quality. So you don't want to store it in a freezer or refrigerator, which is the most common answer of where people store their coffee, because you're dealing with a lot of humidity, even if you put it inside a jar or however you store it. Also, in our storage area, we don't have paint on the walls or on the ceiling because coffee is an absorbent. So it could absorb even the chemicals from the paint on the walls. So you want to store it in a place where you can control, you know, the potential absorbance around the coffee and the humidity. One of the things I want to mention about the absorbance is that coffee is also very good for eliminating odor because it's an absorbent. So if you want to eliminate an odor, we recommend that you put out coffee grounds or beans and you can eliminate it. Alright, so let's see here. When it comes to storage, we recommend a pantry or a cabinet or a seal jar. So we'll get into packaging a little bit more when we step into the roasting room here in just a moment, which is our third process to our coffee. Third process to our coffee. And here in our roasting room we have two drum roasters. We have Big Joe right here behind me, and then over here to my right we have Little Joe. It's pretty obvious, one's bigger than the other. So Big Joe is capable of roasting 100 pounds of coffee at a time, and Little Joe 25 to 30 pounds of coffee at a time. And the way that it works is we get the green beans from our storage area, and then we dump them into this funnel right here. And then this blower that's attached to it will send it up the pipe into the feeder, which also looks like another funnel. And from the feeder, it'll go inside the roaster. Now, inside the roaster is mesh that's circulating. And then there's a flame directly hitting the beans through the mesh powered by propane. So we electronically set the time and the temperature. And also during the process, we make sure that we visibly inspect our beans so that we're not over roasting. That way we maintain better quality. And we also don't completely depend on electronics. So for a medium roast it's 17 minutes, and then for a dark roast it's 20 minutes, and anything higher than that would be an espresso. And I actually have 3 examples over here to my left of our medium, dark, and espresso beans. So that's what the finished product would look like after we're done roasting. Alright. So after we cut off the power to the roasting process, we don't leave the beans inside the roaster where the hot oils can still continue to roast the beans. So to maintain better quality, we dump it down the chute here in the front into this agitator system, and then the coffee is rapidly cooled down to maintain better quality. Alright, so then when we're done roasting, then we're ready to package. And this machine here to my left is also known as the Rovima. It's our largest packaging machine. I can go ahead and get these out of the way and get you a better view. So this machine is mostly pneumatic, and it does it all in one motion. What it will do is it'll get the film from the roll, it'll label the film front and back, and then this device here applies a one-way valve on the packages. So it's also known as a degassing valve. So when you seal the packages, it'll allow the gases that naturally get produced from the coffee to escape out of the package, but it won't allow any air back in. So you maintain better quality that way because the air has moisture. So if it's up and running good, because it's a very technical machine, we can do 700 packages in a day. With the smaller machines that are behind the Rovima, we can do somewhere along the lines of 300. So that would be the difference. So the Rovima is used for flavored coffee and for what we call coffee spice rub, which I'll go on to show you in the gift shop that we make here at Kona Joe's. As we come this direction over here, I can show you the smaller machines, which is what we use to package our beans and our grounds from the medium roast and the dark roast and espresso from our Kainaleo, which is our neighboring farms, or our Trellis grown supply as well. So this is one of our sealer machines. And then these are our smaller packaging machines here that are also attached to a nitrogen tank in the center, because we nitrogen flush our packages to ensure that it pushes out the oxygen that has moisture and can reduce quality. And this is one of our bags here that's open, and I can show you an example of what it looks like. And inside you'll notice that there is a one-way valve and also a heavy-duty heavy-duty Ziploc tie. So when you open the package, you're able to reseal it, and then you can squeeze the air out to maintain the quality. And it won't allow any air back in. So it's a pretty efficient way to package. So if you don't open the package, you can store your coffee for about a year. If you do open the package, we recommend 8 months for beans, 6 months for grounds. Alright, so we can go ahead and get started on the fourth process to our coffee, which is in the gift shop. What we're going to view now is where we flavor our coffee, because that's another thing that we do here at Kona Joe's. We have 7 different flavors to choose from. Macadamia nut, hazelnut, we have chocolate, coconut, Tahitian vanilla. So lots of good, lots of great flavors to choose from. So what we're looking at here is similar to cement barrels, but of course we don't use them for cement, we use them for flavoring. And what we do is after we roast and grind the coffee, we put the grounds inside the barrels, and then we add the liquid flavoring to it. And then as the barrels mix the grounds, then the grounds, absorb the flavor. And as it mixes in and dries, that's how we flavor our coffee. Also, what we do with these barrels, after we clean them out, we make our chocolate. Here at Kona Joe's, we make milk chocolate or semi-sweet dark chocolate. And we either cover pea berry coffee beans in our chocolate, or we cover macadamia nuts. So another thing you get to experience as part of the tour here is samples of both. Not the macadamia nuts, but the pea berry milk and pea berry dark chocolate. Alright, excellent. Hope you. Here in the gift shop, here to my left is where all the sampling is located. As part of the tour, you'll get to sample all the different flavored coffees that we have, and you get to sample the Trellis Signature Medium Roast and the Trellis Signature Dark Roast. So you're welcome to sample all 4 flavors if you'd like. For flavors today, we have coconut and chocolate, and that's part of our flavored coffee. And then another thing here that we make at Kona Joe's is what we call coffee spice rub. This is actually a coffee seasoning, and this was seen on the Food Network before. It's good for chicken, beef, vegetables, fish. I also use it in my eggs. It's got a lot of great ingredients like parsley, chives, oregano, garlic. You have onions, sun-dried tomatoes, peppers, and of course coffee. Because coffee works very good as a meat tenderizer, so it's an excellent rub. And we actually have this container where you're able to smell it that's full of the coffee seasoning. I don't recommend tasting it though. A lot of people handle it, but it smells delicious. And we do have an in-store special where if you buy one, you get, buy 3, you get 1 free, and it's $5.25 each. Alright, and then as we make our way over here to the center shelves, this is where our chocolate is located. Like I mentioned earlier, we have the pea berry coffee beans, or we have the macadamia nuts, which are a lot larger and distinguished from all the pea berry beans. And I can actually show you the tray here that we have that we utilize for sampling. So when you come down and see us or partake of the tour, you'll get to sample the pea berry coffee beans covered in milk and semi-sweet dark chocolate. And then here in these shelves we have the Trellis Signature, and we have it sorted out by medium on the 2 shelves on the left and dark on the 2 shelves to the right. And we also have it sorted out by beans and grounds, so it gives you the option to find what you're looking for. And as we make our way over here to the back shelves, this is where all our flavored coffee is located, and also our blended coffee. We have the option to buy 100% Kona coffee, or we have the option, which is a little cheaper, to purchase blended coffees. So you have either 30% Kona or 10% Kona, so the prices will vary. We also have gift bags of our blended coffees, and then we have a great sale going on for our flavored coffees that have 10% Kona coffee in it, and then the rest of it is international blends, where if you buy 3 you get 1 free, and there's also an additional 20% off the entire price. So it ends up being somewhere along the lines of $20 with some change for 4 bags. Alright, and then we have a variety of shirts to choose from, which has a Kona Joe emblem. So if you're interested in purchasing shirts of different colors and different designs, for males and females, over here to my left. And then right here in these back shelves with the blue and red packaging, we have what's called the Kona Leo 100% Kona coffee. So what we do here at Kona Joe's is we purchase coffee from our neighboring farms, and then we process it here at Kona Joe's. So it gives you the option to still purchase 100% Kona coffee, just not specifically Trellis grown, so it's a little cheaper in price. Because the Trellis, as we learned earlier, will make the coffee sweeter and smoother, so it's a little more complicated in the process and a little more expensive. But it helps them out by processing their coffee, and it helps us out also by giving us more supply, because we do have more demand than supply. And we also have an in-store special where if you purchase $200 or more, it's free shipping anywhere in the States. And then we have our decaf section. And one of the things I wanted to mention about decaf is we also decaffeinate here at Kona Joe's. What we do is we do not use chemicals that are not good for us. What we do is we use carbonated water and pressure cooking. So through the carbonation and the pressure cooking, we extract the caffeine, at least most of it, and then you're left with the same great flavor with the oils. So it gives you the opportunity to try decaf without using chemicals, with a small percentage of coffee, because even though it's decaf, it's not 100% decaffeinated. Alright, and then we have the gold packaging here, which is our pea berry. And then we have the Trellis signature, or excuse me, the Trellis Reserve. This is our premium coffee in the black packaging. And one of the things I wanted to mention about the Trellis Reserve is that we only make it a medium roast, because we don't want to extract too much of the oils and caffeine from our best. So it only comes in medium roast. So that concludes the tour. Thank you very much for your time and attention, and I hope you enjoyed, and I hope the tour also got you a little closer to becoming a coffee enthusiast if you're not already. So thank you very much. Mahalo and aloha.